G'day, welcome to another episode of Life in the Rowboat. I've been pondering what the rowboat can teach us about leadership. And as I thought about that, I considered if I was to take each one of you and show you a rowing eight going through their paces, and after a while of observing that, I asked you the question, who do you think is in charge? I'm pretty certain that the majority of us would respond by saying, well, clearly the coxswain's in charge, because the coxswain is calling the shots. The coxswain's controlling the speed of the boat, the direction of the boat. You know, clearly the coxswain is in charge. And this thought sort of coincided with my completion of reading Frank Viola's excellent book, Reimagining Church. And in that book, Frank highlights our tendency inside Christendom to always put things in a hierarchical order, you know, to figure out the pecking order, who's first, who's second, and ultimately who's last. And there is a real truth in that. Often we read that hierarchy into Scripture. And then just this morning I was reading in Mark 10 verse 45 where this issue came up for the disciples. They were trying to figure out, well, how does this discipleship work? You know, who's in charge, who's second, who's third, so on and so forth. And naturally it became a bit of a burning issue, and you'll recall that James and John, their mum had this desire that they should have, you know, the best seats in the house, so to speak, at the right hand of God. And so she asked about that. And of course her sons are pretty keen with that thought too. And yet Jesus is quite blunt in responding to that and saying, well, you know what? It's not my decision. It's the Father's decision. And so as a result of that, that got the disciples talking about this issue yet again. And then we pick it up in Mark 10 verse 42. But Jesus called them to himself and said to them, you know that those who are considered rulers over the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. Yet it shall not be so among you, but whoever desires to become great among you shall be your servant, and whoever of you desires to be first shall be slave of all. And listen carefully to this verse 45 in Mark 10. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. You'll recall when I initially shared with you about how I came to put together the connection between the coxswain, the role of the coxswain in a rowboat, and the ministry of Yeshua. It was precisely this verse that made the connection. Because one of the meanings of coxswain is boat servant, I realised that Jesus said that of himself. He said, I didn't come to be served, I came to serve. And this is a real eye-opener for us regarding what true servant leadership looks like. And in the rowboat, the coxswain isn't in charge. The coxswain is serving the crew. In the same way, the crew is serving the coxswain. everyone's playing their part in order to ensure that the rowboat continues to move into the future. And so if we adopt our hierarchical approach to leadership and put it in the rowboat, we end up with an absolute mess. Can you imagine 8 rowers in the coxswain all trying to be the person in charge? Not a pretty thought. You just can barely imagine what that would look like. So I trust that this little insight will give you something to ponder and maybe something to discuss with your friends and family. Please take the opportunity to visit my website, www.richardeagle.com. There's plenty of free stuff there and stuff that I trust will encourage you and lift you up and move you forward in your journey into your unique God-given purpose. Bless you and catch you real soon.